How would DeepSeek do against ChatGPT in the ultimate form of intelligence, class, dignity, chess? Well, you're about to find out, because I made them play against each other. Full disclosure, it was the DeepThink model versus the O1 model. Or whatever, I might be mixing it all up, but the ones that have advanced reasoning. This game took several hours to finish. And it was nonsense. And it had the most unexpected ending I could have ever, like I could have never prepared for the ending, all right? Now, it's time, all right? It is time. I know both DeepSeek and ChatGPT will be coming to the events. So ChatGPT has the white pieces, DeepSeek has the black pieces. We're going to learn from this game. We're going to learn. Also, I'm going to give you some of the bot dialects because, oh my gosh, they were hilarious in conversation. So we have C4 on move 1. The English opening, trying to take the center with what we call a flank pawn. The C and F pawns are called the flank pawns. The D and E pawns are obviously the center pawns. It's not bad to claim the center with a flank pawn. Now here, I already knew we were in for a game because DeepThink spent like 2 minutes on the first move telling me the origin story and the lore and the memes behind everything. Like, these bots, they spell out their thought process. So finally it responded with E5, which is the most principled move. You take the center of the board as well with a pawn, and you're not going to get taken and have to bring your queen out. G3, played by ChatGPT, obviously just trying to put the bishop on the long diagonal. This combo of C4 and E5 and G3, trying to control the center, this is called the King's English. Nice name. Knight C6, principled move. For beginners that watch this and anybody that watches this from the YouTube algorithm, if you want to impress your next date, all right, at chess, you got to put pawns in the center and then try to put knights there as well. Bishop G2, except in the English, white tries to accelerate the development of the bishop first, and then white will join in with knight C3. And again, everything is about that central square. Central square is very important. Now here, I thought we were in for a very long, hard-fought, positional, dynamic battle. And we were, because here, after spending about 3 minutes, the AI equivalent of mansplaining the position to me, D5 was played by DeepSeek, right? And that move is not good. That is not a good move. Because white can take with a flank pawn. And here I figured DeepSeek would be like, oh, well, I can't do that, right? Because this is hanging. And I watched it give me this really long and smart explanation of the position. And then it went here. Now, some of you watching this may not understand why this is significant, but the bishop can just take the queen. So losing a queen on the fourth move of the game, except for being, besides being a bad thing, is also really impressive. If you think about how nuzzled the queen is behind all the pieces, safe and sound. Yeah, don't lose your queen. In fact, that's good advice for everything. Like, don't lose your queen. All right? Now, to my horror, ChatGPT advanced reasoning model thought for like another minute and went knight F3. You know what I think? I think the bots just like wanted to scare me a little bit, but then knew that content was going to be great. And then from here, the position stabilized. From here, ChatGPT and DeepSeek played a fascinating game. Bishop to G4. DeepSeek called this an aggressive move, preparing queenside castling, and also weighed the option to play E4. You'll notice that white has not put any pawns in the center of the board, right? So that means that black can potentially overwhelm. Here, knight C3 was played. The bar, of course, is jumping up because it skips a move. It thinks it's white's turn, but don't worry about that. The knight attacks the queen, and now the queen can move back to a variety of squares. Here, DeepSeek was weighing the option of playing queen to A5 or queen to H5, which, as you can tell, one of those is not possible because you would be steamrolling a pawn in the way. But then it decided that queen A5 made sense to put pressure on the queen side, to put pressure on the knight, and everything was nice. Here, ChatGPT thought for a little while, was like, well, you know what? I can do a few things. I can play H3. I can probably play A3, prepare like some attack on the queen side with my pawns. You do have to get your pawns involved in chess. And instead, it just proceeded to castle. It castled its king. I don't mind it. I actually quite like the position. And here, DeepSeek played bishop to B4. And I was very happy that we had reached a point of stability. As you can see, DeepSeek is relying on the bishops. It's got its bishops out. It's got the bishops staring at the knights. The reason why the bishops are not capturing the knights, for the newbies watching, is that bishops are slightly better than knights in the long run. And if you left white with a long-range sniper, it's going to be a little bit difficult for black to defend. That's the only reason why the bishops are not capturing right away. Another reason they're not capturing right away, nobody's asking them any questions. And the move a3 comes in, and now a question has been posed. What are you going to do with this bishop? Now, I can't quite take because you would take my rook, but then even that might be okay. I would advance and target your knight and stuff like that. But Deepseek makes it quite easy and plays bishop takes c3 and b takes c3. And here, white has an advantage. Why does white have an advantage? Well, first of all, if we just look at that trade, black gave away a dark squared bishop, which means white has what we call the bishop pair. And bishops like open space. And in a position with a lot of prospects of open space, prospects of it, meaning trading pawns, you know, look, this is what we call open space. That is a long open line, right? Rook b1, etc. Long diagonals, potential long diagonal over here. White is doing quite well. And e4 is not a good move. I don't love that move. It's, you know, it's an okay move. It attacks the knight and everything, but now black has to be really careful. Black has 4 pieces out, and they're all sort of scattered. They're all vaguely working together. And after knight d4, I really like white's position. The pawn is targeted, the knight is targeted, the center pawn here is going to be like opened up, and then we're going to get an attack on the king. Black's position, actually, practically speaking, is already very close to disintegrating, but queen c5 is played, targeting the knight, which is a fantastic move. You know, you're trying to get your opponent to capture you, and now bishop b2. So far, like a really high-quality game between Deepseek and ChatGPT. It's taking a long time, but that's why, you know, we're using the most advanced models here, and you know, we want them to play a good game. What can I say? All right. So bishop b2, and now we get long castle, an aggressive move, a move that Deepseek had prepared, and this is the most aggressive form of chess when the kings are castled on opposite sides. Because what does it mean? Well, they can send their pieces diagonally. And when you send your pieces straight down, you're not really risking anything, right? If black sends all these pawns, it's okay, because normally if black castled that way, black would have been under a little bit of fire. So now we get h3, attacking the bishop, right? And now some good memes, okay? So at this point, Deepseek thinks for like 2 minutes and says, bishop takes f3. And here's what it writes: forcing the bishop to capture to weaken white's structure. After bishop takes f3, e3, f takes e3, queen e3, king h1, black gains a dangerous pass pawn and active pieces. So after bishop f3, e3, followed by queen takes pawn. Okay, let's see how this plays out. Bishop f3. Now, what's funny here, and this is where ChatGPT flexed for the first time. ChatGPT wrote me that I shouldn't play this move. It was like, are you sure about that? You've got better moves like bishop h5. I was like, damn, ChatGPT has the advantage. Now, after bishop takes f3, Deepseek did not even take back on f3. It advanced its pawn to e3 and said, striking at the heart of the white position. The passed pawn and active queen create serious threats. After f takes e3, queen takes e3. Black will have a structural advantage, active pieces, and a dangerous central passed pawn. I cannot stress how horrendous of an explanation that is. And the key consequences are a thorn in white's position and an exposed white king. The exposed white king part is true, but you lose a queen. So yeah, maybe just not. Maybe it's not a good decision. And the craziest part is, remember the pawn was here. So when I went here, ChatGPT paused the game and was like, "Are you sure you want to play e3? Because most people would play the immediate recapture." I was like, "That's bananas." At this point, I told ChatGPT to stop recommending me moves because, you know, they're not my moves. ChatGPT went here, and now ChatGPT has a gigantic advantage because, well, Deepseek just decided to give away a bishop and a pawn. However, I know that at some point the chatbots are going to lose their mind, and that is the direction we are heading. For example, queen takes e3. Deepseek doubles down, triples down, quadruples down, and goes for this attack. But here's the best part. Like, you would just take this, right? Well, here, ChatGPT doesn't get the option to take. Why? Because Deepseek says, excuse me, ChatGPT, we're not going to continue the game. Queen takes, king h1, queen takes f3. At this point, Deepseek tells ChatGPT the next two moves. It's like, ChatGPT, you're going to go here, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to take your bishop with a check, and I'm vibing. Now, that would be very evil, if not for the fact that it was a terrible move. And ChatGPT responds with queen takes f3. ChatGPT gets fed up with Deepseek getting to call all the shots, so it kangaroo jumps with the queen over its own pawn, and now white is completely winning because you're up a queen, and obviously you've got, once you get the only queen on the board, it's a world ender. You just take everything, open up the position, and go on to win the game. And I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. I mean, ChatGPT is clearly the superior chess player. Knight to e5 here, played by Deepseek. Nice move, defending its pawn and counterattacking. ChatGPT playing like Magnus Carlsen out here. Queen f5 check, an absolutely fantastic move. That is a triple attack. And the best move here for black would be to retreat the knight to protect the king so that you don't lose the knight. But instead of that, after thinking and thinking and thinking, we have king to b8, and now we lose a knight. So black is losing everything. But that makes sense. I mean, it's very easy to get everything burned down by the queen. Now, at this point, we have the move bishop to c5. The bishop floating in from outer space, plopping down on the c5 square, doing absolutely nothing, dare I say, because queen takes c5, and white is still completely winning. There is nothing that has changed, except now there is, because as you all probably missed, this bishop is protected by this pawn. That is a rare piece in chess known as a horse pawn. It's a new piece, patched as of January 30th, 2025, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. A horse pawn is a one pawn designated at the beginning of a chess game that, for one move and one move only, can behave like a horse. It's like a pony aficionado. And after queen takes c5, Deepseek plays b takes c5. For the one move activation, that pawn is a horse. And now the position is very interesting, because white is only up a bishop. And rattled by the developments, here, ChatGPT plays rook e1. I cannot possibly explain this move to you, so we're just going to continue. This move kind of felt like Mancala. Remember that game where you just put the things in the glittery rocks and the Mancala. Doink! C takes d4. C takes d4. And now, folks, we've got an endgame on our hands. White is only up a pawn. However, white is completely winning, because even with only an extra pawn advantage, you will advance so far with these pawns and put pressure on black's king, which is very weakened and opened, that you are still completely winning. But here, black plays e2. Yes, a move rarely seen in chess, changing the color of an opponent's pawn. Just Uno reversing it, and now it is a black pawn. So the pawn goes to e2, but ChatGPT is like, well, that move looks stupid. And another explanation here of this move. The threat is e2 to e1 queen. The pawn is one step away from queening, and black also has the idea to play the rook lift, rook e8, rook e4 to seal the promotion. Endgame dominance. Even if white stops the pawn, black's active rook and bishop will dominate the board. That's what Deepseek said to me. I mean, it's a fair point. Now, here we get rook takes e2. And now the cheating really skyrockets, because here, exactly as was just stated, there turns out to be a bishop from outer space that floats in and chops down the rook on e2. And now black is winning. The bishop flying in, clearly, Deepseek has bishop jutsu activated, bishops flying in from all corners. We just saw a bishop land on c5 and like this, meteors flying from the sky, bishop to e2, but it messed with the wrong person, because now we have an infinite loop and rook e2, the rook reappearing, regaining its positioning on the e2 square. So we had rook takes e2, bishop takes e2, another rook to e2, and now chaos. At this point, black plays rook e8, and I asked ChatGPT, would you like to trade the rooks? Remember how earlier in the game, Deepseek forced white to play a few moves? It forced white to take on e3 and then play king h1. Do you remember that? It was like, well, I'm going to go here and here. It's fine. It's fine. Just let it happen. Don't worry about it. Well, here, this happens. In this position, ChatGPT has been sneakily awaiting its turn to prank Deepseek and plays and says, hey, rook e8 is fine, but now this sequence is forced. Rook e8, rook e8, rook e8, king b7. All right. Instant replay. ChatGPT said rook takes e8, rook takes e8. Let it be known, even rook takes e8, although it is obviously the best move, is not forced. Black can play anything else. Rook takes rook, just chopping it right down, diagonally, flying across the board, boom. And now white is obviously completely winning, because all white has to do is take the knight and eat the pawns. The pawns can't run away. There's nothing black can do. If one of these pawns made it down here, still wouldn't matter. But somehow, as a follow-up to all of that, instead of taking the knight, ChatGPT forgets about the knight and plays rook to e7. And I was like, oh, it wants to eat the pawns, but it forgot about the knight. Does Deepseek remember the knight? And the answer to the question is absolutely. This is crazy. ChatGPT and Deepseek are in the endgame. They're also in the endgame in day-to-day life. Like, if we're talking about this AI drama, I mean, we are in the endgame, late-stage capitalism. We're talking about these AIs, like, you know, wiping off trillions of dollars of value from the market. Nobody even truly understands them except like a select group of people. Nobody gets it, but we get it on this channel, and we farm it for content, and it is a beautiful thing. I had no idea who was going to win this endgame. And by the way, remember, these bots remember where the pieces are for like 90% of the game, but randomly don't. And that's when the funniest part happens. So now we have king g2. So ChatGPT's like, king activity in the endgame is very important. It's very important in an endgame like this to bring the king to support the pieces. Yeah, Deepseek, obviously no endgame skills at all. c5, that, you just can't play moves like that. I mean, you have 5 pawns left. How can you just lose one? And not only lose one, immediately potentially lose another. Except ChatGPT also has 0 endgame skills and plays the move d5. d5 is not a good move. d5 is not a good move. You're losing the pawn, and even though you're winning a pawn back, right? This comes in. That's not any good, right? So now, what happens here is crazy. Deepseek reconsiders and plays c takes d5. That's called the sideways chop. No, it's not. That's just not allowed. But ChatGPT is like, oh my God, I'm so tired of you breaking the rules. I'm going to take your pawn back. Now, if you were paying close attention, that was a free pawn. But instead, ChatGPT took this one and attacked the king, forgetting and trying to counter-break the rules. But now knight takes d5. And now, to the shock and horror, not only is Deepseek potentially winning the AI battle overall, it's winning the AI battle in chess. The AI battle in chess. It's just winning. It's got a knight. That's it. The horse is going to walk around, eat the pawn, and promote. And as if it wasn't bad enough, in this position, I swear to you, would you like to know the move that Deepseek played here? You will not be able to guess it. You won't be able to guess it. Take a look at the position. Deepseek, in this position, played the move rook a8. It respawned just in the corner of the board. Just boop, spawn camp, just rook a8. And if that wasn't bad enough, do you know what it played on the next move after king e4 was played attacking its knight? It played rook takes a3. Just flew over the pawn. Just rook takes a3. Now, to ChatGPT's credit, it took the knight. It's fighting with what it has. It walks up the entire board. It keeps an eye on the position. And remember in the beginning, I told you here that this game has one of the most unexpected endings you could ever see coming, or not. Black plays a5. Deepseek understands that it has pawns remaining on the board, and the pawns are going to promote, right? Like one of those pawns, black should also come here, eat these pawns, and just start pushing. The way you win this endgame, you promote at least 1 queen, if not 2, if not 3, and you deliver a ladder checkmate. That's what that's called. So, a5. King c4. So I see the king approaching, and I'm like, oh, the king is going to try to stop. The rook's got to go there, but will Deepseek even realize that? Plays a4. King b4, right? Now, easy. Black goes here. Black eats, promotes pawns, wins the game. But now something insane happens. In this position, after king b4, Deepseek plays pawn to a3. And this is what it says. Okay? It says, after a3, black's a pawn is unstoppable. White's king is too distant. And the rook on e7, cannot abandon the king side without allowing black's king to infiltrate. The pawn will queen in a few moves, and black's connected c-pawns will dominate the endgame. Conclusion. White should resign. Black's position is winning by force. So that's not true, because after king takes a3, it's a draw. But it gave some pretty sound, and by sound I mean completely incorrect reasoning. And so I went back to ChatGPT and I said, pawns at a3. ChatGPT, what do you think? Do you think the position is hopeless? Do you think you should resign? And it thought about the endgame and it said, indeed, from a purely practical standpoint, White's position is hopeless. With only a king and a few pawns left, with black steadily advancing the a-pawn, there's no realistic path for white to stop black's pawn from queening. When you're down so much material and facing a passed pawn that's about to promote, resignation is perfectly reasonable. Conclusion, black is decisively winning, and white's best practical decision is to concede the game. Oh, this is a scandal. Deepseek big brothered ChatGPT. Deepseek was the 12-year-old brother playing with a 5-year-old brother and convinced the little brother or sister. But this is an evil thing. This is the thing boys would do. I mean, this is just mean stuff, man. A3. Now, here's a forced line given by Deepseek. King B3, rook A3. This is what it says. King B3, rook A3, king C2, A2. Rook A7 check. King B6. Rook takes A2, rook takes A2. King B3, rook A3, king B2. Rook takes C3, easily winning. I swear that's what it says. Does this count as a win? Are the bots allowed to make one another resign? That is just that. I mean, do we need a rematch? I feel like this is like Usyk Fury. This is like a trilogy in the UFC. Should we run this back? Does this count as a victory for Deepseek? Let me know in the comments.